Welcome to Rauta's Non-Metal Sunday. This time I have a double feature here with an artist known as Pando. Now, this is very tricky artist indeed to put in any kind of a genre box for a couple of reasons. First of all, neither of these two releases, one from 2018, Hiraeth, and Rites from 2021, are not exactly the same genre. Even more so, the band or artist in question is known for its rather experimental kind of a music. It features ambient parts, spoken parts, even some guitars and drums, but by no means it's not rock music, it's not metal music, it's not even experimental field music only. So lots of different kind of elements are put into play in order to create this kind of music. Now let's start unboxing while I'll guide you a little bit further. Now, first of all, the band has a disclaimer on its website, especially with the album called Rites, where it says that these photos are key part of the whole release here, and they are here to tell kind of a story. Well, they didn't exactly explain that, but this is a story kind of a thing. But the point here is, it's a music to go with these photos, these images, and of course, I guess in case you want to go deeper into that, you will want to read all these lyrics, not just listen to the music. This album is more about field recordings, recorded conversations, so it's mostly about kind of a spoken parts and a little bit ambience to go with it. It's a very challenging to listen in the sense that if you want to or expect some kind of a musical experience, you might be disappointed, because the stuff here is the kind of anti-music. This duo called Adam and Matt have done a kind of a combination of recordings which are not exactly the kind of music, but more the kind of a background ambience, where spoken parts are indeed a key part of the whole deal. But there are also these kind of a more typical ambient kind of parts, referring to dark ambient and such, where you don't necessarily even, figure out what's the instrument being used, or if it's instrument in the first place, rather than just some, noise or sound made from such, like, and then you just kind of, deal with it, edit it, and, put it into your software and do all kind of crazy tweaks and all that stuff. To a certain degree, it's interesting, but it can be very dull after a while. Now, the same thing pretty much is happening with Rites, but with less spoken parts, I would imagine less field recordings, and more ambience, more guitars and drums. To be honest, I think where the band is at its weakest, which are the biggest flaws on these albums, are when they are exactly using the guitars and drums. Because this kind of a rather sludgy kind of stuff is not exactly the forte of the band. That is, while they do have some kind of a post-metallic, sludgy riffs and stuff like that, in my opinion, the band works for... what works for the best for the band, that is when the guys are doing the kind of ambient. Now, there are some political spoken parts on the album, which are then again explained as like the band is by no means endorsing these comments or whatever. They're just to kind of spark, ignite conversation and thoughts beyond that, which I guess is important, especially when we're talking about American climate, political one that is. And if you have, like, for example, President Nixon talking about Vietnam War or stuff like that, you might get labeled way too quickly to something that you might not even represent. So I totally understand where these guys are coming from, or at least I think I do understand. But that makes this album interesting, but also difficult, I guess, for some people. If you're a sensitive type, it might be kind of hard to understand why there are these ideas. I don't know. For me, it works for the best when there are no spoken parts, not any kind of singing, not guitars or drums, but more ambience. The spoken parts can be there, or it can be without them, and it can still be quite enjoyable. But I'm coming from a dark ambient background where I really don't want spoken parts, vocals, singing, anything like that. I want it to be kind of a rid of all human things. So in my world, it's not necessarily a good thing to have those ones, but I'm sure there are people who will like it. So these two are tricky to get into because they don't exactly fall into one genre. So I would just call them experimental music, and from that you really need to pick it up whether or not you are ready to go for this kind of music. Should I pick the better one? I would say Rites from 2021 is definitely better one of these two. But if you can like this one, then this other one, Hiraeth, is also worth taking a listen to, because it's interesting, but it's also more challenging because, well, maybe these field recordings and recorded conversations are something, well, demanding. But an interesting project which I don't find too interesting myself. I mean, I like the idea what the guys are doing, but when it comes to my musical tastes and what I like to listen to a lot, this isn't exactly that. So I respect the work. I like that these artists are doing something different. But in terms of music, like would I buy these CDs? I must say I wouldn't. But that's just me. You decide for yourself. Go check out the links provided in the description box and listen to the music. And who knows, maybe you will like them after all. Thanks for watching the review. Should you have comments or questions, drop them in the comments box below and I'll get back to you. Take care and bye-bye.